Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Ben Olson, that's Nathan Fox. We're the founders of LSATdemon.com and our weekly podcast, Thinking LSAT. We have an email here from Caleb T.
Caleb T says, "Hi, Ben and Nathan. My biggest question is for your advice on which law schools to avoid. I heard Nathan mention that Kansas poaches their students and wanted to know if there are any other schools that, in your opinions, are predatory or should be avoided if possible for whatever reason." Okay, so let me be clear.
All schools.
So Ben says all schools, and I do tend to agree. I mean, they are frequently nominally nonprofits, but they seem to be motivated by financial gain.
Yeah.
They want you to apply. They don't care how good of a candidate you are. They don't care how good of an application you submit. They want you to apply. And if they deny you, that helps their rankings. And if they admit you and they get you to pay full price, that helps their rankings. And if you have the right LSAT and the right GPA and they admit you and give you a scholarship, they're doing so because it helps their rankings. And, ultimately, they're trying to admit as many students as they can and charge those students as much money as they can charge. And most law schools probably only provide you like a 50% shot at best of having a reliably six-figure career. And yeah, I think there are too many law schools admitting too many students. I think that they especially are predatory toward first-generation students and students of color. The reason why we say that is because they charge those people more, and the outcomes for those people are worse. So, yeah, when Ben says
predatory,
that all seems bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems borderline fraudulent. So I would say, it is just something that you should go into with your eyes wide open. And I would encourage you can make this vastly less risky by educating yourself on how much people actually pay to go to these schools. So go to lsatdemon.com/scholarships, look at our scholarship estimator, and you should, be able to figure out, oh shit, wow, I thought that your tuition was $55,000, but I see here that you offer full rides or more than 50% scholarships to 85% of your students. Wow, there's only 4% of your students that pay full price? Yeah, I mean, that's the type of shit that you should watch out for. I want to address the Kansas thing specifically. I was in a meeting with Kansas undergrad pre-law students, and they had the advisor of the Kansas undergrad pre-law group. I think it was Pi Alpha Delta, PAD. Is it Phi Alpha Delta or Pi Alpha Delta? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Whatever, the National Pre-Law Society, it was their chapter at Kansas. And they had an advisor, faculty advisor there, who was allegedly trying to help these students. But the pre-law advisor also worked for the law school. And the advice that I heard her give in that meeting struck me as predatory. Because she was telling people, most people don't actually improve when they LSAT prep. She was telling people, oh, most people don't score over 160. So if you're scoring 160, you should just apply. I had a hypothesis, and I went and looked at the Kansas 509 report, and shocker, their median LSAT was exactly 160. And it struck me that this person who works at the law school, I think she works in law school admissions for Kansas Law School. This was a few years ago, so everything could have changed by now.
Sure.
But she was in there talking to the undergraduates at Kansas, and it seemed like she was clearly giving advice that was oriented toward, oh, all I really want you all to do is just apply to Kansas Law School only, because, if you get to a 160, that's good enough for us, and we don't want you to get to 165, because if you got to 165, then you might decide to go to a better school.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that that's Kansas Law School broadly. That's one person who I think was giving advice that was contrary to the interests of the people that she was trying to advise.
Yep.
So I'm not saying avoid Kansas law school because of that. I'm saying be skeptical of the advice that you're getting from the law schools themselves. And this is someone who worked at the actual law school. Law schools, they all, as Ben says, are going to behave in a predatory manner. If you start talking to a law school admissions person, that's a shark. They're trying to sell you something.
Yeah. And people don't see it that way. I mean, I keep making this analogy to buying a house, but that's because I think it's very similar, right? A house is a very expensive thing. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on where you're buying it. School is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you went to a house and you said, I'd like to learn more about this house, and the agent for the seller said, yeah, I'll tell you all about it. What do you need to know? And you said to them, should I buy this house? What the hell do you think they're going to tell you? Well, tell me about your situation. Yeah, it doesn't sound like you're ready for a house right now. No, they would say, yeah, this is a great neighborhood. It's got great schools. You think one day you may have a family? Okay, great. This is a great neighborhood for families. It's just going to be perfect.
Buyer's agents are predatory too. You have to think about the incentives of the person that's giving you the advice.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
even if it's nominally your agent,
Yeah,
they get paid when you buy a house.
I'm not suggesting that that's good, but when you go to not even your agent, but to the seller's agent, right? They're just like,
which that's
they
what
have
the law
no
school...
fiduciary duty to you whatsoever. I mean, not that you should trust your buyer's agent either, but yeah.
No, you shouldn't trust somebody who has skin in the game to, like, if you make a purchase, we get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, I mean, those admissions folk they are rewarded, maybe they're not like paid on a commission basis, but they are rewarded by having more applicants. They're rewarded by admitting more people who pay more money. Like, they have to just fill those seats every year.
Yeah.
Think about a car salesman. Think about how friendly those people are. They're always going to act like they're your best friend.
How's your day been? Oh yeah, where are you coming from? Oh, okay. What do you do for a living?
What do you drive now? Oh, that's so great. Yeah, that's cool. So how come you're why are you selling? What are you looking for in a new car? Yeah. And they're asking all these questions where all they're doing is just gathering as much data as possible so that they can then use that data to try to facilitate a sale. That's their job. Well, that's the job of all of these law school folk. So when you're talking to a school, I don't mean that it's nefarious necessarily. I just mean that their incentives are not aligned with yours.
Their incentives are not aligned with yours, exactly. And a lot of people go to them looking for advice. They see the school as a protector, a Sherpa, someone that's going to guide them in their life. And they're really just another,
Right. It's like a fake fiduciary. I mean, they pretend to be like, we want what's in
higher
your
education.
best interest.
Yeah. It's a transformative
we're a
experience.
nonprofit.
Yeah.
We're here to help you.
Yeah.
You're here to siphon money off of the student loan system.
And I'm your means of doing that. Yeah.
Are there any particular... I don't think there's a single law school that I would say you should avoid this law school no matter what.
No, just approach all law schools with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah, a very healthy dose of skepticism. And the best way to protect yourself is to get the best LSAT you can and then apply broadly. We benefit not at all from this advice for you to apply broadly. I mean, think about our incentives. Mm-hmm. We do benefit when you prep for the LSAT with us. So when I say, I think you should get the best LSAT you can, you have to understand that I get paid when you prep with me. Mm-hmm. But I'm also in this for the long run. I benefit when you are successful, when you get yourself a good deal on a JD, and when you refer business to me for the rest of your life. You're a happy attorney and you're like, oh yeah, those guys, Ben and Nathan, they gave me good advice. That's the game that I'm trying to play. I'm really not in it for the short term, but I will acknowledge that my incentives are aligned with yours to the extent that I want you to get a high LSAT. But I also am financially rewarded by you getting a high LSAT. So I think that, we have similar but aligned interests to that extent.
Hmm.
But a lot of our other advice, if you listen to our podcasts, you'll know that we try to talk people out of law school all the time. We don't get paid anything for that. We also advise you to apply broadly, which we definitely don't get paid anything for. But that's because we want you to be successful. And the best way that you can equip yourself against potentially predatory schools is just to apply broadly. If you apply to 15 schools with the best LSAT you can possibly muster, and you apply at the right time in the cycle, which is basically September, if you apply early and you apply broadly and you apply with your best LSAT, then you're going to have multiple competing offers to consider. And when you have multiple competing offers, you have to worry far less about predatory behavior because the predatory offers are going to stand out. Wait,
Yeah.
this school wants to charge me that price? Why would I do that when I could go to this other school that's maybe similarly ranked or even better ranked that's going to charge me a much lower price?
Yep.
Why would I take this offer? This is clearly a shitty offer. If you only apply to one or two schools, you might only get shitty offers. If you apply broadly, you're going to get some shitty offers and some good offers, and then you can decide which is which because the market will have told you which is which.
Yeah. You're essentially letting the market fix the problem to some degree by applying broadly. If you don't apply broadly, then you're forcing yourself into a monopolistic situation.
I just gave the same advice to a potential undergrad, by the way. My niece is now about to start her senior year
Yep.
of high school. She's super stressing out because she doesn't have good high school counseling and they are not really helping her through this process. She thinks she has to decide exactly what she wants to do for the rest of her life and decide exactly what school she wants to go to. And I'm like, hey, you don't have to worry about this. Pick 15 schools to apply to.
Yeah.
Apply broadly. Apply to 5 that are right in your wheelhouse. Apply to a handful that are stretches for you, dream schools, and apply to a handful that are, safety schools for you where you feel like you're definitely going to get into those schools. Just make sure that you apply to 10 or more schools. Then when your offers start to come in, then we can make some decisions.
Yeah.
And I don't even think you should visit campuses before you send off those applications. Why would you? Cast a wider net in terms of actual applications, because in law school terms, they're going to send you the price with or slightly after they offer you admission. The price that's on their website is not the price. Look at the 509 reports to see how wildly variant the actual price is that they charge. Apply broadly and you'll see what price they're going to charge you. They might offer you scholarships with your right in the same letter that they admit you. They might offer you a scholarship, or they might say something like scholarship information to follow. In a few weeks, you'll get another letter from them saying, hey, here's the scholarship that we're going to get you, which is basically just a discount. I mean, all they're really doing is telling you, hey, here's the real price for you. But you never get that real price until you apply. Anything more for Caleb or anything more about predatory law schools?
Yeah. No, that's it.
I mean, I would say to the extent that schools are behaving in a predatory way, I think it is kind of sketchy. The schools that give tons of scholarships tend to be on the sketchier end. And the reason why I say that,
they have to compensate for those scholarships by offering full price tuition to people who are more vulnerable and willing to pay it.
right, the schools that have the fakest tuition, that's the schools that I would really worry the most about paying the full price.
Yeah.
If you're like a school like Wash U, for example,
Yeah.
for 10 years, we've been talking about how Wash U gives more scholarships than any other school in the top 20.
Yep.
I mean, Wash U gives crazy scholarships. If you start looking at Wash U, but this is Washington University in St. Louis, they're a reputable law school. And Chris from LSAT Demon is at Wash U right now. And so I'm not saying don't go to that school, but I am saying if you're going to go to Wash U, you really need to look at how much people pay to go to that school.
Yeah.
Because if you barely squeak into Wash U and they want to charge you full price, oh my God. You're not just paying for you and one other person, you're paying for you and 4 other people at a school like that because they give so many full rides.
You're basically saying like Wash U is not like CarMax. You have CarMax,
Right.
and then you have regular dealerships.
Right. You go to a regular dealership, you're talking to some sleazy sales guy. I mean, they do have this, it's still sales folks at CarMax. I mean, they still really do want to sell you a car.
Yeah.
You know, they might not even be paid on commission at CarMax, but they certainly are monitored on how many cars they sell.
Yeah.
So they still want to sell you a car, but at least at CarMax, you don't have to negotiate on the price.
Yep.
And law school is much more like a traditional car dealer where for the exact same car, if you're a good negotiator, you might end up paying $15,000 less than somebody who doesn't play that negotiations game well.
Yeah.
That to me is shady. I mean, I hate that shit. That's why I buy my cars at CarMax because I just don't want to fuck with it. I like, give me the price. Just tell me the fucking price.
Yeah.
All law schools are shady to that extent that you just don't know what the price is going to be until you apply.
Yep.
Caleb, if you apply broadly, you just don't have to worry about it.
Cool.
Thank you for writing in, Caleb. Email daily at lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.